Honorable Attorney General, your time would be far better spent, forget the PNM now, over the last few days in an act of governmental corruption, which you all are now working hard to cover up, over the wrongful and stupid appointment of a rookie in the SIA to a pristine position to head the SSA, an organization, Mr. President, which was to take in the Special Anti-Crime Unit and the Security Intelligence Agency. They were to be combined in the SSA. And they took this rookie, this unknown, unqualified, and caused her to be the head. And today, that government who come in to tell us today about anti-corruption commission, they are all engaged in a cover-up, not answering pertinent questions. They don't want this country to know that while the note to go to cabinet for appointment went through the ministry and the Minister of National Security, the recommendation and the resume did not. He didn't see it. It went straight to the Prime Minister, straight from the SIA. They don't want us to know that. They don't want us to know that someone called Julie Brown, who was to evaluate Ms. Ramnarine, she too put a reference, a recommendation to her. She's evaluating her, but she is recommending her. That is corruption. And you all, yes, corruption is not only about money. This is why, you see, if you had read a text like this before coming here, you would not have humiliated yourself as you have. Corruption is not only about money. And you said so at the beginning of your speech. In fact, you read that when you were reading until you disposed of it. And now they're involved in a cover-up, brushing aside the media, don't want to answer questions. Pathetic as you could have it. It's also corruption.
The government having introduced into the debate the question of a degree, that having failed to prevent them from being disgraced and scandalized in public, the government then started to say, well, previous person had no qualification. And the advisor to the Prime Minister, advisor on national security, he was on radio yesterday calling the names of two well-known officers and telling the country they had no qualification. Mr. Speaker, if this is no qualification, then I'd like to be without qualification. Nigel Clement, he was a lieutenant commander in the Coast Guard as far back as 2002. Qualification doesn't only come by a certificate you get in an exam. This country invested tremendously in time and money in Nigel Clement's development. He was head of the SIA. Before that, Mr. Speaker, he was trained by the people of Trinidad and Tobago in intelligence gathering and analysis. He held command positions in the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard. He was trained in the Special Forces. He's a graduate of Canada Caribbean Military Staff College. He's a graduate of Britannia Royal Naval College. Mr. Speaker, this is an officer who came through the ranks. Yet this government, in seeking to defend the indefensible, put Griffith on radio yesterday to tell the country that what goes on now with Ms. Ramnarine is okay because it was going on before, because SORT leader had no qualifications and Nigel Clement had no qualification. They will not speak the truth if they are paid to.
And then we heard that a person who to this day, no one has denied, was simply in possession of a couple O levels and a few A levels, was being put to head this super intelligence agency, Mr. Speaker. And I think this is the tragic aspect of this fiasco that persons have not zeroed in on. And that is why I thought it necessary to bring this motion. Because in other countries, Mr. Speaker, what they do when they're appointing persons to these types of organizations, security intelligence agencies, there are a number of established procedures to screen the persons involved. from the lowest level person to the person at the top of the organization, Mr. Speaker. And I have a document here out of Canada which speaks about personnel screening, basic reliability status, enhanced reliability status, and security clearance. And I'm sure that the Honorable Minister will know what I am talking about. And the checks that should be conducted on persons appointed to head SIA, SORT, SSA, whatever you want to call it. Some of the things that one needs to look at: character, honesty, etc., financial situation, personal beliefs and associations, because you want to know whether the person is a member of an organization which might be inimical to the interests of the state. The person might be very well a member of some religious or other type of organization which may not be supportive of the government, and so on. And I know none of this was done for this person. You did not check the person's associations. You do not check, in local parlance, who they lime with. Excuse me, who their liming partners are. And I'm not casting any aspersions, but you will want to check the person's association with persons or groups who may be considered to be a threat to either security or confidentiality. You want to do a background check on the person's family to see if there's a member of the family that might induce this person to release confidential information or in any way encourage the person to do something that would threaten the security of the state. You want to make sure the records checked are actually those of the individual being proposed for the job. Educational qualifications, you have to assess it. You want to ensure that the person possesses the academic qualifications required by the position, and they are being truthful about, it's interesting the words inside this Canadian manual, they are being truthful about the educational background and the educational record. The point I am making, Mr. Speaker, we have gone through a debacle and a fiasco, and I hope that on the next occasion, the proper background checks will be done, the proper reference checks will be done, and you will let us know the qualifications and experience record of the person in question. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The government acted on information from the police. I say no more.
And while he stayed true to that, not telling the media exactly what the police are investigating with respect to the Strategic Services Agency,
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley said the government has been blindsided by the Strategic Services Agency, the SSA. Speaking to the media immediately on his return to Trinidad and Tobago from India, Dr. Rowley was asked to share his thoughts on the recent development where Major Roger Best was dismissed from the SSA. That announcement came via a media release from the Ministry of National Security on Saturday evening.
We have been blindsided by this agency, but fortunately the government was able to be informed at an early stage, and we approached it with vigor and commitment. There is an ongoing, very serious investigation that is taking place, and as I said before, some of what has been unearthed in this investigation has been quite troublesome. When we realized that we had a problem of this nature, the government acted swiftly, and there's an acting appointment there with all the authorities of the office, and for the time being that will be satisfactory as we try to get to the bottom of what was going on in the SSA. I can tell you a lot of what we have discovered is quite troubling, but it being a matter of national security, we will handle it responsibly, and as you would have seen, action has been taken. The government acted on information from the police. I say no more.
And while he stayed true to that, not telling the media exactly what the police are investigating with respect to the Strategic Services Agency, he did provide additional info, albeit without specifics on what led to the surprise decision to remove the head of the SSA.
It was all part of the response of the government to the information obtained by the police. Circumstances required that the government act to ensure that the national security is not jeopardized.
Dr. Rowley said the issue has to do with personnel, equipment and the processes of the SSA and not necessarily the interception of information.
It is centered around personnel. The director is responsible for the agency and therefore he is held responsible. But it's a broader situation.
The Prime Minister said the public needs to trust that the government has seen certain information that required this response.
It's not every day we act like this. It's not every day we do this. Something must have happened to have warranted this.
But the opposition leader has expressed concern that the government through the TTPS has now taken over the SSA. And Kamla Prasad-Bissessa has described the new acting head as a political operative who will now grant government access to the public's communications.
I would not respond to any of the opposition's extremities in rubbish. So I will not engage the opposition leader in her folly.
Dr. Rowley was also asked about police locking down the premises occupied by the SSA on Sunday morning, hours before the announcement that Brigadier Philip Spencer will be the new acting head. He said despite utterances in the public, the police did not come there to seize any information.
Nothing has been taken, but because of the circumstances of a change over and the situations that we're dealing with, we wanted to ensure that all the properties and premises, the integrity was preserved.
And while details about what exactly the police is investigating were not forthcoming from the Prime Minister, it does seem to be quite serious.
If I wasn't troubled by it, we wouldn't have acted in this way.
Some of the things that one needs to look at: character, honesty, etc., financial situation, personal beliefs and associations, because you want to know whether the person is a member of an organization which might be inimical to the interests of the state. The person might be very well a member of some religious or other type of organization which may not be supportive of the government and so on.
2 weeks after the SSA saga first unfolded, comes word now that several employees of the Elite Intelligence Gathering Unit who had agency-issued firearms and a Firearms Users Employee Certificate or FUEC last year had their firearms and documents seized. The instructions, senior intelligence sources revealed to TV6 News, came from the acting director of the SSA, Brigadier Anthony Phillips Spencer. Sources say that the exercise started this morning and was led by the security department of the SSA. TV6 News was reliably informed that the SSA officers visited the Komoto location and some other locations of SSA employees who are hired civilians and took action. One of the employees who had their firearm and FUEC seized was the son of Pastor Ian Brown, who worked in the cybercrime unit of the SSA along with several others. Sources told TV6 News that last year when the pastor's son was hired in the department, a few months afterwards, everyone on that particular unit was issued FUECs, allowing them to keep and carry a firearm. However, top intelligence sources said that other employees working in far greater high-risk departments were not afforded this opportunity and raised serious questions about granting FUECs to employees in a low-risk department. Usually, the SSA director has the authority as the firearm user's license FUL holder to issue firearm users employee certificates. Sources say that they expected further shake-ups. SSA Director Roger Best was sent on administrative leave almost 2 weeks ago for allegedly hiring unqualified individuals attached to the Jerusalem Bride Church to work at the SSA. Earlier this week, at least 6 employees had security clearance and other privileges revoked. Yesterday, a senior SSA official was sent packing. The police continue a multi-pronged investigation into the internal workings of the SSA, as well as other criminal activities that may be linked to personnel at the SSA.